Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 5 2017 NFL predictions. Well, for the Fanatic this week, it's been a very good week. I rebounded quite nicely from the debacle of the Week 3 that was. And for the first time all year, I had winning records for both against the spread and straight up picks. Last week I went 10-6 against the spread, and straight up for the second time this year I went 12-4. And now overall for the year I am 29-33-1 against the spread, and straight up I am now 40-23. So I am excited that it's another week of football is coming up, though it was a very interesting week in terms of how certain teams are positioned. You have the Niners, the Niners, the Chargers, the Giants, and the Browns all 0-4. But I believe in those 16 games, 10 of those games have been decided by 4 points or fewer. So that's really showing that even the bad teams in the NFL are not the most horrible teams. Yeah, so 10 of those games have been decided by 4 points or less, which is quite impressive. And then you look at the entire NFL, really you have the Kansas City Chiefs as the most complete and well-rounded team. And then there's everybody else for right now through a quarter of the year. Because you have problems with Pittsburgh and their road games, their run defense. You have with Green Bay, you have just problems with their defense and the lack of running game. The Pats have defensive problems out the wazoo. The Panthers can look inconsistent on offense. The Falcons just suffered two big injuries to Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu. The Bills can be offensively challenged at times if their defense isn't playing up to the level they are. The Rams are still kind of a young squad, and we don't know if the success can continue or if we'll get to their heads and they can't stay focused. Seattle has home and road issues. The Titans have a lot of defensive issues. Everybody, basically, besides Kansas City Chiefs, has some sort of flaw that you can point at and say, this could hurt them getting to the big dance. So that's kind of the great parity of the 0-4 teams. The Niners and Chargers are really not as bad. While the Browns are just the Browns, and the Giants, they've somehow, over the last 2 weeks, have been able to get it back together. So that's kind of the fun and parity of the NFL. And two more quick things. I do want to send my condolences and prayers to the city of Las Vegas after what happened this past Sunday night with that horrific mass shooting, the deadliest and largest in United States history. I think in this time, for everybody out there, we all need to be able to look at one another and just be able to embrace and say that we are all proud Americans, and we will all not stand for this horrific, senseless trends of violence to continue. And it's up to all of us as citizens and people to move on and try to unify and connect instead of divide and separate. So that's my quick thing on that. And lastly, for this week, since it is the start of the bye season, the 4 teams that are on bye this week are the Atlanta Falcons, the Denver Broncos, New Orleans Saints, and Washington Redskins. So if you have Devontae Freeman, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, it's the Falcons defense, the Denver Broncos defense, Simeon, Sanders, C.J. Anderson, Thomas, Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Kirk Cousins, Rob Kelly, Terrell Pryor. If you have any of those players on your teams, bench them because they will not be playing this week. Alright, so time for my picks for this week. So on Thursday, when the 2-2 New England Patriots go to the 2-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the New England Patriots are 5.5-point favorites in this game. I like Tampa Bay here, plus 5.5, but I'm going to take the New England Patriots straight up. And then the next game, when the 3-1 Buffalo Bills go to the 1-3 Cincinnati Bengals, the Cincinnati Cincinnati Bengals are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Buffalo here, +3, and Buffalo straight up. And then the next game, when the 500 New York Jets at 2-2 go to the 0-4 Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are 1.5-point favorites in this game. I like the New York Jets here, +1.5 against the spread and straight up. And then the next game, when the 3-1 Carolina Panthers go to the 3-1 Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Detroit here, -3, and Detroit straight up. And in the next game, when the 0-4 San Francisco 49ers go to the 1-3 Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts are 1.5-point favorites in this game. I like Indianapolis here, -1.5, and Indianapolis straight up. And then the next game, when the 2-2 Tennessee Titans go to the 1-2 Miami Dolphins. The Tennessee Titans are 3-point favorites in this game. I like the Tennessee Titans here, -3, and Tennessee straight up. And in the next game, when in the battle of winless teams, when the 0-4 Los Angeles Chargers go to the 0-4 New York Giants, the New York Giants are 4-point favorites in this game. I feel this game is so evenly matched that I'm going to split the difference here, and you guys can criticize me for hedging my bets. But I'm going to take the LA Chargers here, +4, but I'm going to take the New York Giants straight up. Then the next game, when the 2-2 Arizona Cardinals go to the 3-1 Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles here are 6.5-point favorites in this game. I like Philadelphia here, -6.5, and Philadelphia straight up. And then the next game, when the 2-2 Jacksonville Jaguars go to the 3-1 Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 8.5-point favorites in this game. I like Pittsburgh here, -8.5, and Pittsburgh straight up. And then the next game, when the 2-2 Seattle Seahawks go to the 3-1 Los Angeles Rams. The LA Rams are 1.5-point favorites in this game. I like the LA Rams here, -1.5, and the LA Rams straight up. And then the next game, when the 2-2 Baltimore Ravens go to the 2-2 Oakland Raiders. This game is a pick-em right now. And with that, I'm going to take the home team, and I'm going to take the Oakland Raiders here against the spread at a pick-em, and Oakland straight up. And then the next game, when the 3-1 Green Bay Packers go to the 2-2 Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are 2-point favorites in this game. I like Green Bay here, +2, and Green Bay straight up. And then the next game, when the 4-0 Kansas City Chiefs go to the 2-2 Houston Texans. This game is another pick-em type game, and in this instance, I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs against the spread, and the Kansas City Chiefs straight up. And then finally for the Monday night game, when the 2-2 Minnesota Vikings go to the 1-3 Chicago Bears. The Minnesota Vikings here are 3-point favorites in this game. This is another one of those kind of even games where I'm going to split and hedge my bets here. I'm going to take Chicago here, +3, but I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings straight up. Alright, so time for my thoughts in each game. Patriots at Buccaneers. Wow, do the New England Patriots have a massive problem on defense. The New England Patriots have given up the second most points and the second most yards in NFL history. Only the 2012 New Orleans Saints have worse numbers at this point. Amazingly, however, on the same token, they score the second most points, and they have produced the most yards on offense this year. So basically, it's like an even kill where, hey, look, that's a 500 team. If you could score the most points and give up the most points, it just depends on if Brady has the ball last or his opponent does. And then, you look at the Pats, they are 1-2 at home for the first time since the 2000 season, which is very rare that the Pats lose 2 games in a season in general. And also I want to congratulate Stephen Gostkowski for kicking a 58-yard field goal that is the longest in Patriots history, breaking the record by Adam Vinatieri when he kicked a 57-yard field goal. And, I look at this game and you see this is going to be another one of those shootouts, and I feel like Tampa, just based on talent, has more talent to work with. Jameis Winston against the New York Giants threw his 6th career 3-touchdown game. Only Brad Johnson, the all-great Brad Johnson for Tampa, has more 3-touchdown games with the Buccaneers. I also want to congratulate the O.J. Howard, the first-round pick from Alabama. The tight end scored his first touchdown of his career with a 58-yard touchdown reception. However, he didn't have to do that much work. He did that in the national title game the first year against Clemson, where he just basically ran wide open right down the field. And if you look at Tampa, their defense is not that good. They've given up the 3rd most yards per game in the NFL, and they really haven't been able to run the ball well. They're a bottom 10 running offense right now. Unfortunately for them, they're going to get Doug Martin back. And the reason why I look at this game and I'm taking Tampa +5 is that I just feel that this game is going to be such a close shootout. It's going to be either a field goal or game-winning touchdown by Brady that wins this game. I don't think the Pats, anything 3 or 4 is kind of where, with how the season's gone. If you're going to take the Pats, that's the kind of numbers you need or smaller because that's the way they're going to win games. And I think the only way that really the Patriots are going to pull away from this game is if Jameis Winston throws interceptions. Remember, he threw 3 2 weeks ago against the Minnesota Vikings. Last week against the Giants, which kind of has an equal secondary and a equal defensive front, he put up no interceptions. But I'm going to take the Patriots because Tom Brady's never lost to Tampa Bay, and there's just this weird feeling in my head, in my heart, that once I go against the Patriots, or once they, until they give me a legitimate reason, or after this week if they lose to Tampa, where like I just can't trust the Patriots defense, I'm just going to stick with the Patriots. Because really, besides the KC game, they could be a 3-1 football team, or they could be a 0-4 football team, or a 1-3 football team. Because you could argue Deshaun Watson, the Texans should have been able to beat them, and the Panthers did beat them, and the Chiefs beat them, and the only legitimate one they had was against the New Orleans Saints. So I think this game is going to be a great offensive shootout. If you're the Patriot fans, I believe 21 is the number that you hope that you can hold them to at most. I don't think they're going to be able to do it. If they don't, then the Bucs have a better chance to win. And I just have a lot more defensive concerns that Matt Patricia, by the end of this year, maybe by the end of this game, may be on the hottest seat of any defensive coordinator in the NFL, with just how bad his defense has been playing. Should be a great game, but like I said, I'm going to trust Brady here. I think Winston will make a mistake against the Belichick defense. Even if they're not communicating well, he still can position them, and hopefully with kind of a short week, the opposite is true, and they can have enough quick enough sense to turn it around against a Tampa team that, for the most part, has been more missed than hit, and kind of more fortunate than not. Also, good for Nick Folk. He missed 2 field goals and an extra point on Sunday, and to kick the game winner, congrats to him. So that's why I like Tampa Bay here +5.5, but I'm going to take the New England Patriots straight up. Next game, Bills over Bengals. Let's give the Buffalo defense a lot of credit. Through the first 4 games this year, ladies and gentlemen, the Buffalo Bills have only allowed 1 passing touchdown through the air. And also just with that shows how dominant this defense is. And remember, this is not without Ronald Darby. This has been without at times Marcel Darius. This has been without Reggie Ragland. This has been, with guys like E.J. Gaines, no Ronald Darby. Like, this Bills defense is playing tremendous football. Tre'Davious White looks like a great first-round pick that they got from LSU. He made the big fumble return for their touchdown, and also was the guy that tipped the ball to Micah Hyde, who's in the lead with interceptions with Malik Hooker to lead the league. And also Buffalo, it's their first 3-1 start since 2011. That year, I think they ended up going 6-10 after like a 4-1 or 5-1 start. But this Bills team under Sean McDermott, it looks different, it looks for real, and I'm believing in these Bills. Even though, again, the offense is still kind of a weird struggle. Charles Clay right now is their leading wide receiver, and Jordan Matthews, their number 1 receiver, is going to be out for for a month with a thumb injury. And and then you look at the Bengals. Look, the Bengals over the last 2 weeks, they found their offense, and it started clicking, and they were able to get their first one of the year against Cleveland. Everybody's beating up on Cleveland, so that's not that much of a surprise. Though the Cincinnati Bengals, through their struggles or through what they've done, they do have the 3rd-ranked defense in terms of points and yards, in terms of just for the defense, which was kind of surprising after I looked at it. And for Andy Dalton, for everybody saying his demise was premature, I guess I know I botched that Mark Twain line. It kind of was, because he's thrown 6 touchdowns and no interceptions in the last 2 games. I also want to congratulate Tyler Kroft. He had a career high in touchdowns and yards, but that was obviously because Tyler Eifert, their starting tight end, has been out for a while due to a back injury that's been hurting him for most of his career. And Cincinnati also has 6 straight wins against Cleveland, and the Bengals have won 3 of the last 4 against the Bills. So a lot of this is telling me there's a bit of a trap here. The Bengals are getting momentum. The Bills are coming in a bit hobbled on offense, and this will be really Buffalo's second and back-to-back road games. From what I've seen out of Buffalo, they beat a decent Jet team by a good margin. They were able to beat a great Broncos team or great Broncos defense on the road. Stephen Hauschka is having one of his best career years in terms of, the 50-plus yard field goals back-to-back weeks, in clutch spots. And I just feel, again, remember, Cincinnati, their last 2 games have been on the road. Remember, the Bengals still not scored an offensive touchdown at home. And now, remember, this Bills defense only allowed 1 passing touchdown through the air. So, I just think, again, if Buffalo is for real, and if this isn't one of those kind of mirages of luck or, consistent, play and, kind of good breaks or, injuries, they should be able to win this game against a Cincinnati team that they have found some offensive confidence, but the Bills' defense should, be able to wipe that confidence away and lead the Bills to a fourth win and be 4-1. And to me, right now, one of the 2 wildcard teams in the AFC, along with the Chiefs or Broncos. I think it's going to be an interesting game. I hope the Bills don't fall for the trap, but I don't think they will. But this definitely is kind of a trap type game for the Buffalo Bills. But this is why I like Buffalo here, +3, and Buffalo straight up. The next game, the Jets at the Browns. Stop the presses, everybody. The Jets have hit their quota. They have won back-to-back games. Congratulations to the New York Jets. First of all, to a guy like Bilal Powell, who ran for the second longest rushing touchdown in Jets franchise history at 75 yards. I forget the individual, but I believe the longest one was 78 yards back in the 1980s. And for the New York Jets, their ground game was absolutely fantastic. They ran for the most rushing yards in a single game since Week 4 of the 2010 season. And also for Josh McCown, this is how rare of a moment this is for him. This is the first time since 2004 that Josh McCown, as a starting quarterback, was able to win back-to-back games. So, you know what, Jets? You're always the Cinderellas, the ugly stepchild of New York sports. And this is why it's so great, because when you win, you get all the love and all the passion and fun. Unlike with the Giants, with them constantly losing, you just get the anger out of New York fans. So congrats to Todd Bowles, who right now through the first month is like in my top 5 of Coach of the Year, because if you were to tell me the Jets would be 500 at this point, I would have laughed and said there was no way the Jets could win 2 games in the first month. And, the amazing thing is the Jets have won 2 games that I didn't expect, and they're playing a team that I have enough confidence to let the Jets win again. Because they are playing the Cleveland Browns, who still look like the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Kaiser this year, 73 of 142, 51.4% completion percentage, 764 yards, 3 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Those 8 interceptions lead the league. Duke Johnson right now is their leading wide receiver at 207 yards, which is never a good thing if your running back is your best receiver. Well, in this instance, because they're not doing anything. Todd Gurley, on the other hand, who's leading the Rams, good for him. And Cleveland now has lost 14 straight divisional games. And I have to tell people, Hugh Jackson, he's a nice man. But if he can't win a game, or he wins 1 or 2 games again this year, that man deserves to be fired because he did a horrible job. Myles Garrett has not been able to play. That's, and again, you can blame the management, but also Hugh Jackson had to sign off on getting Myles Garrett. Deshaun Kaiser is not playing well enough, or he's not building off some of these games. And yes, they got blown out, and yes, you could argue that's talent. But they could have beaten Pittsburgh. They were coming back against Indy. And, so the Browns have had chances to win. And honestly, to tell everybody, I have no sympathy for Hugh Jackson. This I will believe will be his last head coaching job in the league. And honestly, he does not deserve another one. Let's remember, folks, Hugh Jackson chose to go to Cleveland. This was not a thing where it wasn't like Kyle Shanahan, where the final job that was open was Cleveland and Hugh Jackson had to take that. The New York Giants and Jerry Reese were willing to give Hugh Jackson an interview. He took this Cleveland Browns job. He knew what this team and what this GM wanted to do. And that was to continue to fail. And this whole Moneyball aspect of showing in football, it's not working. And there's not enough progress in the offense. Unlike with the Niners, who are 0-4 themselves. There's not like progress where you're seeing this team compete every single week with a very below-average team. Hugh Jackson brought in, they have Joe Thomas. They signed in a Kevin Zeitler. They re-signed a J.C. Treader. They brought in Kenny Britt. They have Crowell. They started a rookie quarterback. This is a team that's shown that they can win games. And if Hugh Jackson can only win 1 or 2 games, the man deserves to be fired, and I have no sympathy for him, and I do not believe he deserves another head coaching job in the NFL. But besides my little side on Cleveland, I just think, again, the Jets have shown me just over the last 2 weeks that they are a much better team than the Cleveland Browns. Like, Cleveland may put up a fight. They put up a fight against Indy. They put up a fight against Pittsburgh. But if I, am reading this right, the Jets should, with McCown, be able to make enough plays. Robbie Anderson, Forte and Powell and all these guys should be able to eke out another one against a very bad Cleveland team. And it's going to be weird for the Jets that they were able to win 3 straight games for the first time since 2015 and only the second time in Bowles' young coaching career. So that's why I like the New York Jets here, plus 1.5. And straight up. Next game, Panthers at Lions. I want to give the Carolina Panthers a lot of credit in terms of their resolve. They played the Patriots defense, so let's not go overboard and sing the praises of that. But they showed a lot of resolve by playing as great a game as they did against the New England Patriots. For Carolina, for Cam Newton, that was his 50th career rushing touchdown, which he's the first NFL quarterback to have 50 career rushing touchdowns. And here was one stat that I thought was absolutely fantastic. Cam Newton now is only one of 5 football players of 50 rushing touchdowns and at least 5 passing touchdowns. The other 4 players were LaDainian Tomlinson, Walter Payton, Marcus Allen, and Paul Hornung for the Green Bay Packers back in the 1920s and 30s. Cam Newton now, just like Alex Smith, is kind of one of those weird stats, is now still undefeated against Tom Brady. And the Panthers' offense looked absolutely fantastic. They were able to score 4 touchdowns in that game. In the previous 3 games, they scored 4 touchdowns in their first 3 games against the Bills, Saints, and Niners. Last week against New England, they put up 4 touchdowns in that game. Fozzie Whitaker was wide open. Kelvin Benjamin looked great. They had Ed Dixon making plays, and they just kept moving the ball at will against a very soft Pats defense. And also, I'm going to give the Panthers defense credit as well. They still, after even giving up 30 to New England, they still have the 4th ranked defense in terms of points and yards. And they are playing a Detroit team that, I have to tell you, they are an underrated good team. I feel like the Lions, they're a borderline top 5 team, and I feel like they're not getting that proper respect just because it's Detroit and just kind of, it's Stafford and Abdullah. They're not doing it in, pretty ways. Detroit's 3-1 for the first time since the 2014 season, and also Detroit's rushing attack. It's weird because they have the 21st fewest yards. However, when they get in the red zone, they're able to capitalize on those short yards because they have the 4th most rushing TDs in the league. And when you look at this Lions defense, I believe Terrell Austin this year should become a head coach because he's done an absolutely fantastic job. And one of the biggest reasons why they're winning is they have the highest turnover differential in the NFL positive-wise for them. And in 3 of their first 4 games, they've at least been able to force 3 turnovers. And again, this is going to be one of those weird games where Detroit's lost 5 of the last 6 against Carolina. But just seeing what this Detroit team is made up of, Cam, even though he's had, decent games, he had a decent game against San Francisco, and he had a really good game against New England, I still can't get over the other 2 games where he looked very awful against Buffalo, even though you can give Buffalo's defense some credit for making him look that bad. And then you have the game against New Orleans where that defense, even though it looks much better than we thought now, it's still not good to only put up 13 points. With that inconsistency going against a much better Lions defense, I feel like Stafford, if this game is kind of in that situation, they're going to right their wrong against the NFC South team and be able to, if they have to, pull off a 4th quarter comeback and win the game and give the Lions another huge one to get to start out 4-1 and probably one of the top 5 teams in the NFC, and definitely this is their best team to challenge the Packers in the NFC North this season. So that's why I like Detroit here, -3, and Detroit straight up. And then the next game, the Colts over the Niners. San Francisco is kind of doing what Cleveland needs to do, except because San Francisco has played their last 3 games against the division. They played the Seahawks in Seattle, they played the LA Rams at home, and they went to Arizona. In those 3 division games, they've lost by a combined 8 points. And it was weird because you had one game that was a defensive struggle when they lost 12-9. The second game was an offensive firework display, and they lost 41-39. And then last week, they went to overtime against the Cardinals, and they lost off a Larry Fitzgerald second down touchdown in overtime to lose 18-15. And this Niner team has shown a lot of improvement through those 3 weeks. With a Brian Hoyer at quarterback, with a Carlos Hyde that's finally playing like that second-round pick they wanted him to be. They have a defense without Reuben Foster who's still making plays. Elvis Dumervil recorded his 100 career sack. Eric Reed's been out. Jimmy Ward's making decent plays. You have DeForest Buckner. You have a very decently ran Niners team that's giving out effort. But kind of like with Hugh Jackson, if he didn't beat the LA Chargers last year, I need Kyle Shanahan to win a game. And this may be Kyle Shanahan's last chance to win a game. And if he doesn't win a game, as much as a fan as I am of his, Kyle Shanahan will deserve to be fired. Because if you keep getting in these close games, and this is how I believe, and you guys can say I'm wrong or say your points about it, is that I always believe if you have an injured team or a young team, and if you're losing, if it's by a ridiculous amount of points, or if it's by over 10 points, I can give you the injuries and I can give you youth. But if you're in these one score 10-point games every single week where you've had chances to win, that's not on the players and talent. That's on the coaching being able to capitalize on those situations. So again, if Kyle Shanahan, all he needs for me this year is one win. And I really love the effort they're putting out. But if he doesn't win, he deserves to get fired. And that's just the bottom line. Because an 0-16 season is not acceptable by anybody. First year or not. The Niners now, but this is kind of a weird trend. This is now the 4th straight season where they've lost 3 straight divisional games. It's not like in previous years where it was like all 3 the first 3, but this is the 4th year they've lost 3 straight divisional games in a season. And for the Niners, this is their first 0-4 start since the 2010 season. And then you look at the Colts, through the first half of that game against Seattle, they were showing that they were the better team. The Colts scored the first points on the Seattle defense in the first quarter all year long. And Jacoby Brissett had a 31-yard run. In the other 3 games, he only ran for 33 yards in total. So, good for Jacoby Brissett, showing his legs and showing his movement. But also for them, this was the most points they had given up, all year. I believe also maybe Brissett is the first rookie quarterback in his first road start to have a pick 6 and a fumble recovery return TD in the same game. And I mentioned Malik Hooker tied for the NFL lead with 3 interceptions. But I'm going to take Brissett here just because I've seen enough out of him, kind of like the game against Cleveland, kind of the same principle. Can the Niners win this game? Absolutely. They could, finally be able to pull one together against a rookie quarterback or a second-year quarterback that's only going to be starting his 6th career game, where Brian Hoyer's at least got over a season under his belt. The Niners could pull it together. But with it being at home and knowing the AFC South, if Andrew Luck can come back after this week in Week 6 against the Titans, that they have a shot to win this division. And Brissett will have done his job well enough that you could argue he should be a 3-1 quarterback. But I feel like, again, if the Colts are really confident about trying to save their season or fight for the division and get Andrew Luck an opportunity to do that, Brissett and this Colts team needs to beat this Niner team who is just playing tough but just not being able to, finish games. And there's a difference, though, between like what they're doing and what the Chargers are doing, because at least the Niners are young. And this is the first-year head coach. And I know Lynn is a first-year head coach, but he has a lot more experienced talent. And with talent like that, you shouldn't be losing the way the Chargers are. So that's why I like Indianapolis here, -1.5, and Indianapolis straight up. Next game, Titans at Dolphins. God, was that awful for the Tennessee Titans. They gave up the most points in franchise history with 57. And also that was the second most points they gave up, just for a fun fact, was in Week 16 of the 2012 season when they gave up 55 to the Packers. And also for the Titans, this was the most turnovers committed by their offense since Week 9 of the 2012 season when they committed 5 themselves in that game as well. And you just look at this defense, it's not, they have some pieces, but when Wesley Woodyard, who is our leading tackle, only has 23 tackles, that's not that great through 4 games. Jarrell Casey is a great, nose tackle, but he hasn't really making play. Avery Williamson, kind of really nobody. Sylvester Williams, same way. Secondary, Dory Jackson, a big PI penalty. He made some decent plays, but you have, Bird, who's not bad. You have Cyprian, who's kind of been, lost, and they really weren't able to run the ball that well. And his Titans team just looked absolutely embarrassed. And also Marcus Mariota went down of a hamstring injury. And now for all those Titans fans, you have to put the injury-prone label on this guy. Because 3 straight years with an injury? Yeah, that's not a coincidence. That's not a happenstance. That's just some guy that's you have to worry about him being injured at least for some time during the year. But I'm going to take the Titans here because the Dolphins, and Adam Gase, a coach that I like a lot and respect, he is not doing a great job at all, and I'm putting most of the blame on him. The Dolphins, for the first time since Week 16 of 2013 season, got shut out. And the Dolphins really all this year have scored 2 offensive touchdowns. One was a 29-yard touchdown to Kenny Stills in Week 2 against the Chargers, and the other one was a 3-yard touchdown pass to Devontae Parker last week on the last play of the game against the Jets. And for Adam Gase, this was a fun thing I found out. This is only the second career game that he got shut out as a head coach or a coordinator. The other game was Week 3 of the 2015 season when his offense went into Chicago and with Jimmy Clausen got shut out 26-0. But I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans here, just because even if Mariota doesn't play and they're signing Brandon Whedon, so that's kind of showing that Mariota is not probably at least 50% or better to play because they have to get another quarterback. They had to bring in Brandon Whedon. But I just saw nothing out of the Dolphins. Ajayi's not running the ball well. Landry's not making plays. Cutler's looking pouty and wildcat formations. This Dolphins offense just looks dreadful. And it's amazing because I thought Adam Gase with Cutler back there could get something together. But obviously I forgot it's Jay Cutler, and I have to keep reminding myself it's Jay Cutler. So I'm going to take the Titans here. I just have enough confidence in them that they should be able to put around a nice game plan together, that they can run the ball well, and Castle can play his type of game, manage the game, make some decent throws. Truly want to have Corey Davis out there, which is significant. But I just trust the Titans enough to be able to win this game in kind of a weird, kind of gritty game. Maybe the Dolphins out in front of their home crowd. Remember, they haven't been able to play at home all year. Maybe they'll get some motivation and finally show that they have a pulse on offense. But I feel like if the Titans want any confidence or any credibility that they could be a wildcard team at least, an AFC South leading team, they should be able to beat the Dolphins in a decisive way. So that's why I like Tennessee here, -3, and Tennessee straight up. Next game, the loser bowl, if you will, with the Los Angeles Chargers going to the New York Giants, and I would like to modify those names for a second. This is the game between the Los Angeles Chokers and the New York Cryants, because that's what their fans have been doing all year long. The Chokers have been choking on games, and the Giants fans have been crying because of all the misspent money, bumbling coach, washed up quarterback, expensive defense is not panning out, lack of offensive line, and they're crying in misery just because of all those things going together. And I'm not trying to be critical of it, I'm not trying to make a joke of it, I'm just being honest. I think that a lot of Giants fans are crying in anger because of that. And if you look at it, if you look at some of these stats, again, I will mention again, the Chargers now are 9-18 in their last 28 one-score games. This is the first 0-4 start for Phillip Rivers in his career, and for the first time for the Chargers since 2003. And for the first time since 2003, the Chargers lost their first 3 home games in a row. And I think, again, one of the biggest reasons, they haven't been able to put it well together. Melvin Gordon, who was one of the top leading touchdown people in the league last year, is now only 18th in the league in rushing. You look at, Keenan Allen, Tyrell Williams, and just watching, the Chargers, Keenan Allen's had a pretty good, bounce back year, but Antonio Gates hasn't done much. Travis Benjamin and Tyrell Williams get one big play a game each, but that's it. And it's just this choker team, they just can't figure a way to win. And people keep saying that's the best 0-4 team that maybe I've ever seen. That's BS. You know what that is? That's just a bunch of experienced veteran guys and some young, good talent that are just used to this, and there's nothing encouraging about that at all. You know who the best 0-4 team is? The San Francisco 49ers. That's the best 0-4 team. Because at least when you look at the Niners, you see potential. When I see the Chokers out there, you know what I see? I just see a bunch of veteran guys that just are used to this kind of culture. and they're just used to losing, and it sucks. Okay, so people are saying, oh, the Chokers are the best 0-4 team. No, they're not. They have no upside. The Chokers are just the San Diego Chargers that just continue to show that, they deserve to stay in San Diego, and LA fans are just going to the Rams. Because for like the third straight week, the opposing team had more fans in the LA stadium than the Chokers. And and that's the thing, and when you look at the Cryans, or the Giants on the other side, it's kind of the frustration the other way. Like, Eli Manning had the longest run of his career, which was 14 yards for a touchdown. Good for him. But here was the saddest thing about that. That was the first rushing touchdown the Giants had all year. And also for the first time since 2006, the Eagles have lost, since the 06 Eagles, the Giants have lost back-to-back games at the buzzer with a game-winning kick. And it's the first 0-4 start for the Giants since 2013. And this is the weird thing, the Giants last year were able to win a lot of close games because of their stout defense, and Odell Beckham and Shepard are just making one big offensive play. Well, that second-best defense in points, 10th in yards, and 3rd in rushing from a year ago, now is transformed to the 25th ranked defense in points, 25th in yards, and 28th in rushing. For Giants, this is, for a lot of people, this is when, big New York spending, big New York things fail. That the Giants put all this money into their defense, a receiving core that was decent. They didn't put any money in that line, which they're regretting. And a quarterback that had won a couple rings, and it's blown up all in their face. And, the only reason why I'm taking the Cryants to beat the Chokers is because the Cryants are at home. That's it. Would I be surprised if the LA Chargers or Chokers win this game? Not at all. But would I be surprised if the Giants won this game? Not at all. I don't think anybody would in this game. But when you look at the Chokers and the Cryants, this is one of those things where the Cryants have shown over the last couple of weeks that, hey, we got some lucky breaks, but we were able to, to get wins, or be able to be much more competitive. True, the Chokers have done this all year, but they've done this the last few years as well. So this isn't like, the Chokers were able to capitalize the last couple of years on anything positive. This is just a continuation. And, that's the thing. That's why I'm taking the Giants. They're at home. I have nothing else, because everything else pretty much is kind of the same thing. Quarterbacks are about even at this point. Running backs, I'll give the Giants, I'll give the Chargers an edge at O-line and running game. I'll give the Giants an edge at receiver, but the Chargers have younger pass rushers. They both have decent secondaries. But again, I'm just taking the Giants because they're home. That's it. So that's why I like but I'm going to take the Chargers against the spread because that's how even this game is, and I wouldn't be. So that's why I'm going to take the Chargers +4 and the Giants straight up. Next game, Cardinals at Eagles. For Carson Palmer, he threw his 290th touchdown, which now ties him 13th with Johnny Unitas. And since 2011, the Arizona Cardinals in their last 10 overtime games have gone 8-1-1. So this is something that the Cardinals, when they're put in this situation, they know how to respond. And I also want to congratulate Eric Fitzgerald, who's now the only active player with multiple overtime touchdowns. He had the one that won the game on Sunday, and then he had the one to win in the 2015 game against the Packers in the playoffs. But I'm taking Philadelphia here because Philadelphia is one of those top 10, borderline top 5 teams that have played really good, consistent football for the most part. The Eagles' offense right now performs the 3rd longest duration of drive in the NFL, so they're dominating in time of possession. I believe they're number 1 in terms of average time of possession. And they also perform the 2nd most plays per drive. I think that's incredibly important to just kind of, wear out a defense. And they've been able to, speaking of wear out a defense, they've been able to pound the ball over the last couple games. They've ran 81 times the last 2 games. And LeGarrette Blount ran for the most yards in a game since Week 17 of the 2013 season. Even though Arizona's won 5 of the last 6 games, I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles here because I just don't trust this Cardinal team. This is a bad 2-2 Cardinal team. That they lost a decisive game against the Lions when Palmer threw 4 interceptions. The Cowboys' defense was just able to hold their offense. DeMarcus Lawrence had 3 sacks. And the 2 wins they had were against 2 teams that were 1-7 by overtime field goals and touchdowns. And if Brissett doesn't throw an interception, or if, I think it was Garcon last week, if he doesn't fumble, this team could be 0-4. With Philadelphia, I just see a consistent team that at times their play calling can get a little too conservative. Doug Peterson kind of makes Carson Wentz a little more concerned than he should be, but they've been able to run the ball pretty well. They're not doing this with Darby or Watt or Mills or Fletcher Cox, who might be out again this week. They've just been able to find ways to win consistent games, and I'm going to trust the Eagles to do that again against the Cardinal team that, against better competition, has shown they can't win. So that's why Philadelphia are -6.5, and Philadelphia straight up. Next, Steelers over Jags. The Pittsburgh Steelers, right now to me, behind the Kansas City Chiefs and the Green Bay Packers, are the third best team in the NFL. Their defense has been absolutely fantastic. They have been dominant. They've been getting a lot of sacks and a lot of pressure. It was the first win for the Steelers in Baltimore since 2012. Le'Veon Bell also ran for the most yards against the Ravens in his career, 144 yards. Pitt's defense is second in points and second in yards. Their one Achilles heel, you could argue, is their rushing defense, which is 23rd. And again, when you look at Antonio Brown, people were talking about when he flipped the cooler on the sideline. I get he was angry that Ben, on a perfect route that he ran, he missed him wide open. But AB, that was kind of the worst aspect. It wasn't like you were the Ravens who were down 19-0. You were up 19-0. And Antonio Brown, just for, fact check, he's second in the league in receptions and second in yards. So this is one of those things where Antonio Brown, like that's the thing. I get why he was angry, but it just was bad optically because they were able to win the game, and Big Ben's still giving you the football. And again, I just look at this Pittsburgh-Jacksonville game. Jacksonville is just this bad team that, they just rear their ugly head. When you want to believe in the Jags, the Hags come up and they come out with the chokers or the Hags or the Gags, because you're just angry at how, they lose those games. They gag from their own choking. There we go. That was a little creative thing there. Even though, again, because here is how amazing it is. Since 2014, the Jags only once a year since 2015 and 2016 have been able to win back-to-back games only one time. One time a year they do that. And I really thought against the Jets, like, hey, you could maybe start getting 3 or 4 straight. Who knows? But, yep, no, only one time a year. So, basically, it's just kind of dumb luck if the Jags can pull that off. I do want to congratulate Leonard Fournette, though. He became the first Jags player to have a touchdown for scrimmage in his first 4 games of the season. He's been an absolute decent force for them. And with Miles Jack picking up the backwards lateral from Josh McCown, the Jags now scored 2 defensive touchdowns. They only had 1 all last year, which I believe was Jalen Ramsey's pick 6. And by the way, Jalen Ramsey, he gave up 256 yards on the ground. You still believe that they're the best defense in the NFL? You don't hear that, do you? No, because you're not. But I'm going to take Pittsburgh here. Like, this is just a dominating. This is Pittsburgh at home. They rarely lose at home. They haven't lost to the Jags at home since the 2007 season when they lost back-to-back times in the wildcard game and the regular season game. And I put my faith in the Jags, and maybe the Jags can put it together. Their defense can do something. But that Pittsburgh offensive line is pretty good. They're not going to generate that much. Men can move, and I just don't see that Jags secondary holding up against 3 talented receivers and a decent tight end. So that's all I like Pittsburgh here, -8.5, and Pittsburgh straight up. Next game, the LA Rams over the Seahawks. I want to give the LA Rams a tremendous amount of credit. What a game, what a season they've been having. The LA Rams are the first team since the 1954 New York Giants to lead the league in scoring after being last the previous year. Todd Gurley had no receiving touchdowns in his career through his first 2 years. Now he's had 3 in the last 3 games. He scored, I believe, 7 touchdowns, which is more than he did last year. And Greg Zuerlein, Legatron, set an NFL record with kicking 7 field goals in 1 game. And they needed every single one of those kicks because they won by 5 points, and he was the one that got the game-winning or the game-icing field goal at the end there. And so that's the thing, like, the Rams defense, they've had some struggles. I'll admit that. They have now the 4th worst defense in points and the 5th worst in yards. But at the end of the day, look, they played a Washington team, which, under Jake Gruden, that was his former coordinator. You can give him a little bit of a pass for that. The Niner one, you can blame them a lot because the Niners, look, they put up 39, but then they put up 3 against San Fran, 12 against Seattle. They put up 15 against Arizona. So for the Rams to give up 39, that's a problem. And then the game against Dallas, you know what? Dallas had a pretty good offense. So, for them to be able to outshoot that, that's pretty impressive. Though I know for the Rams, defensive coordinator, especially Wade Phillips, he wants to improve those numbers because he doesn't want to have the LA Rams, being that bad defensively and having the offense have to bail them out. And they're playing a Seattle team that looked absolutely fantastic. They handled their business at home. They outscored Indianapolis 36-3 in the second half. That was the largest half deficit point margin difference in their franchise history. They scored 46 points in the game, which is the most points scored in a primetime game for them since Week 4 of 2002. And they only allowed 32 total yards in the second half, which was the lowest since 1997. I am going to take the Los Angeles Rams here because of one key thing. The Seahawks are back on the road. This LA Rams team, even under Jeff Fisher, was able to find ways to beat the Seahawks team. The LA Rams have not been able to go into the Rams road stadium, either in Los Angeles or St. Louis, and win a game since 2013. They have won 3 straight home games. And just knowing what the Seattle team is on the road. Yes, Russell Wilson and that offense looked alive over the last 6 quarters, but the reason why he had to be was because the defense was that bad. And playing up against the number 1 offense in the NFL, I'm going to trust that, again, the Rams will have a much easier time against a depleted Seattle offensive line. One of their offensive linemen, I believe, went in the hospital over the weekend or on Sunday because of a neck injury. And I know Cliff Averill was injured with a neck injury as well. And I just have no confidence with the Seattle team on the road against an improved LA team that is trying to prove a point that even though they went 3-1 last year, this is a different Rams team and expect a different outcome for that instance. So that's why I like the LA Rams here, -1.5, and the LA Rams straight up. Then the next game, the Raiders over the Ravens. The Oakland Raiders have had a rough stretch. Derek Carr has suffered the Tony Romo injury, the transverse crack in his back. He's supposed to be out 2 to 6 weeks, which is never a good thing. The other two games that he did not play, or quarterbacks he had in, Matt McGloin and Connor Cook, did not look good at all. And now they're having former first-round pick E.J. Manuel probably start this game. The Raiders' running attack has been demolished over the last couple games by Washington and Denver. They've only had 56 total yards. That's the fewest in a game, 2 games since December of 1995. The Raiders' defense, though, look, the passing statistics and the rushing yard statistics, they're still pretty bad. They're still in the bottom 10 or just outside the bottom 10 in a lot of those categories, but they are 13th in points. So that, one of the more important defensive stats, they're doing a pretty good job. And they've also allowed the second fewest rushing TDs in the NFL. E.J. Manuel has lost his last 4 starts. The last time he won was Week 2 of the 2014 season. But I am taking E.J. Manuel and the Raiders. As weird as it is, you can call me a pessimist. I'm just being maybe too realistic. This Ravens offense is just absolutely pathetic and awful. We've scored 2 offensive touchdowns the last 2 games. Joe Flacco his interception streak still continues at 10 straight games, and we have the worst passing offense in terms of total yards in the NFL. And after forcing 10 turnovers in the first 2 games, we've only forced 2 in the last 2 games. I'm just taking the Raiders here. I know Cooper's been having some problems. He's been dropping a lot of balls. His confidence seems shot, and Michael Crabtree was out last game because he was hurt. But I don't care. I think with Cooper and this team, there's just something. The Raiders have a much better offensive line. They may not have as good a secondary as we do, but I don't think we'll be able to capitalize against their secondary. And I'm just going to trust that E.J. Manuel, if Marshawn Lynch can run the ball effectively, because Marshawn Lynch provides a different challenge than Le'Veon Bell. Maybe not the versatility, but definitely the challenge of power, that E.J. Manuel can make enough management-type throws and decisions to win a game the Raiders desperately need to have in order to keep themselves in the AFC West race and in the wild card race. And for the Ravens, kind of the same thing, but just watching what that team has, I trust E.J. Manuel with that offense against a mediocre defense compared to a god-awful offense with a decent to very good defense at times. Should be a great game. I hope I'm wrong here, but I'm going to take the Oakland Raiders here because I'll trust E.J. Manuel with the talent he has around him to make enough plays that a Raven team against the Raider defense that Joe Flacco and that offense will not be able to make. So that's why I like Oakland over Baltimore. Next game, the Packers over the Cowboys. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, kind of an easy day for him. Rodgers went 18 to 26, 179 yards, 4 TDs, nothing big. But though they did lose Ty Montgomery, their running back, and they lost Jonathan Williams, their other running back, so now they're relying on third-string running back Aaron Jones, a third-round pick, I believe, or third to fifth-round pick out of UTEP. And when you look at the Packers, they've played the Bears, they've played Cincinnati, they played I'm trying to think here. They played Atlanta, which they lost to, and I forget the first game they played, but they won that one. Oh no, and then they played Seattle. There we go. So they beat Seattle at home, which they've been able to do over the last few years. They beat up the Bears and they beat up the Bengals. So really not that impressive, but again, it's Aaron Rodgers and this team. And just like last year of how the game went, that's kind of how the same way I'm going with this one in this instance. Where for Green Bay, especially for Dallas, let me explain. Excuse me. Dak Prescott had 252 total yards, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. Ezekiel Elliott had 85 yards on the ground and a touchdown, and Dez Bryant had 5 receptions for 95 yards and a touchdown, even though he was targeted 13 times. If your team is that good offensively, or Dak, Zeke, and Dez, the little three, if you will, or the little guy of the big three, play that well, you should be able to win a game. They're doing that well offensively. However, that defense without Sean Lee is awful. And they fall in the 26th in scoring defense, and I just think, again, the Packers defense, it does not have that much talent. Devontae Adams could not play because of the hit he got from Danny Trevathan. But I'm just looking at the Packers and saying this is just a game where, again, I'm going to trust Aaron Rodgers going against the Cowboys defense more than Dak Prescott against the Packers defense. Both teams in a shootout, I'm going to trust Aaron Rodgers to have the ball in his hands last and Crosby to do the same exact thing that he did in the playoff game last year. It's going to be a great game. I'm excited. It's America's Game of the Week on Fox, and I would recommend everybody to watch it. But I'm going to take the Packers here, trust them a little bit more defensively. Their running game they can compensate for, and I think Aaron Rodgers will prove his ability as being one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the NFL. So that's all like Green Bay here +2, and Green Bay straight up. Chiefs over Texans. Kareem Hunt is the 4th rookie running back in NFL history to have his first 4 games of 100+ scrimmage yards. Alex Smith, he had a 32-yard run in that scramble, 32-yard scramble. That was the 2nd longest run of his career. And for the Chiefs, this is now the 4th time in franchise history they've started out 4-0. The last time was in 2013 when they started 9-0, and for about a week or two, were considered the best team in the NFL. But this is a few years later, and things have changed. And I think now Kansas City, if they can keep winning, they're going to continue to prove that they, not just for a week or a fad, they are the best team in the NFL, because I believe they're the most completely well-rounded team. But with that, I look at it saying 4-0 for the first time for the 4th time franchise history. And for the first time this year, the Chiefs did not score in the first quarter. And for Harrison Butker, their kicker, he was the 3rd rookie kicker in Monday Night Football history to kick a game-winning field goal in the final 10 seconds of his debut. And Kansas City's just efficiency is amazing. In their last 30 games, they are 26-4, which is the best record in the National Football League for all other teams. And they are playing a Houston team that has found their star quarterback. They have found a franchise quarterback in Deshaun Watson. He is the 3rd rookie quarterback in NFL history with 4 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown in 1 game. Houston scored the most points in franchise history. They scored 6 touchdowns in that game. They only had 4 offensive touchdowns in the first 3 games combined. And Lamar Miller got his first touchdown in his 49th carry, which was the most by a running back this year without a touchdown this season. Though I do have to say, I think it's been unfair for Kansas City. They've had to travel to Houston, because now this will be the 7th time in the last 8 games they've had to go to Houston, Texas. But I'm going to take the Chiefs here just because I believe in well-rounded teams. And I think, again, Deshaun Watson, look, he's played much better than I thought, really, ever since, his first game, which he won, by the way. Like, he's played really well, and he's shown that, he's gotten this O'Brien playbook. But just knowing what the Chiefs are, Alex Smith and Andy Reid find a game plan to try to neutralize Watson, and just their well-roundedness will be enough to let the Chiefs win this game. I think Watson's rookie tendencies against an experienced team like Andy Reid will come through, and I think the Chiefs will be able to, get another close win off a field goal or just a big-time play by Alex Smith or by a mistake by Watson to win this game. Should be a great game, and I think Houston, they have a shot to pull off the upset. I wouldn't be that surprised. I'm going to take the Chiefs here, more well-rounded and more well-complete. So that's why the KC here minus 1.5 and KC straight up. And the last game, the Vikings over the Bears. This is just because of Trubisky. Mitchell Trubisky, he'll be the fourth rookie quarterback to have his first game on Monday Night Football. The other three, Jim Harbaugh, Aaron Rodgers, and Phillip Rivers, had their 3 games. And I'm going against the grain here because those 3 guys won their games. But he also has John Fox as a head coach, where rookie quarterbacks under John Fox as starter are 3-11 as a starter. And again, I know the Bears are playing at home, and in their 2 home games, they look much better than their 2 road games where they got smashed. And the Vikings are without the second all-time leading rusher through 4 games in their franchise history with Dalvin Cook. And their offense just looks, irrelevant now because nobody's going to respect their run. I'm just taking the Vikings here because I'm just going to trust that defense. I think Trubisky against that defense is going to have a rough night. And I don't think he'll be able to make enough plays to win the game. In Case Keenum, he can just run the ball, hopefully with Murray, and just make 1 or 2 decent throws to put him in position for 4-1/2 to win the game off just field goals and the 1 touchdown. But with being at home, I'll give the Bears their credit. I'm a lot more nervous with the Bears at home than if this game was in Minnesota. Because if this game was in Minnesota, I think the Vikings would cream. But with it being in Chicago and with the history of this team at home this year, I'll give the Bears their due and say that they could, it'll be a 1 or 2 point game. So those are my thoughts, comments, and picks for this week. Like, comment, rate, subscribe. Please let me know any questions you have, any of the games, or any of the reasons why I said this stuff I did, or my thoughts. Please check out the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Facebook page. So many great prognosticators out there. Andrew Warren, Gio Knows, Hatbox, and Gio, by the way, I did pick your Vikings for the first time all year, so you can stop getting on me for that. You have Logan Schiff, Hatbox Nation with Billy B, Half Moon's Picks, Bridgewater's Finest, all those guys. Please check them out. They do great jobs like I do. MN Beast, Minnesota Beast. Please check them out. They're all great at what they do as well. And that's it. So good luck to all players, coaches, teams, fantasy owners, and fellow prognosticators. Until next week, this is Matthew Fanatic signing off. Until then, so long.